Hi there, this is Nerius. Today we're going to roll into one of the topics which I think is one of the most interesting for me because it's deeply personal. It's something that I have experienced and I feel like I know this topic very well because I went through it. And it's the idea of being an overthinker, someone that's stuck in their head all the time. A lot of my youth was in that state. So when I talk about this, I'm talking purely from my experience. And frankly, the reason why I got into self development, into meditation, psychology, all of that stuff is because I realized that I'm kind of stuck and I'm not living the life that I want to live, not experiencing life in the way that I want to experience. And that gives me a kind of a dissatisfaction. And even more than that, it gives me a realization that the things that I want to accomplish, whether in my relationships, in my professional career, in my artistic pursuits, which I enjoy very much, they're all limited because of these psychological factors, because of me being stuck in my head. And I think it's a trait that is large enough and sort of popular enough that a lot of people can relate to that. So in this video, I'll share my experience of the most effective ways of thinking about this, and I guess things that I should have done or I would like to share with someone maybe 10 years back when I was younger, right? Now I'm 33. These things would be great to have to know them, right? 10 years, 15 years before. The first thing that you have to realize about the situation that you're in, and I know how it feels, you feel stuck in the head, you can't really socialize how you want, you're second guessing yourself, all of that. And you're thinking, is it me? Because that's the main question that you have. Like, is it me? Is there something fundamentally wrong about me that I'm this type of person? And then you might even start inventing excuses, saying, well, I'm just a kind of an introvert, so I'll never be able to socialize properly. I'll never be able to do this, to do that, to do these things, etc. I think this is largely bullshit because an introvert, in my opinion, is someone who prefers to have time off from other people. But a well-developed introvert is capable of engaging other people when he needs to. And if you think about the things that you want to get in life, whether it's, friendships, relationships, with the opposite sex or whatever, professional relationships, all of these things will require a lot of socialization, and being stuck in your head will really get between you and that goal. And you have to realize, and this is something that I only realized later, it's not really me, okay? It's not really you. You're not exactly an overthinker. It's just that for one or another reason, you have been conditioned to be this type of person. The way that you engage with life, the way that you problem solve, for whatever reason, has been conditioned to be a type of internalized intellect looping on itself. Now, that in itself isn't bad. In fact, one of the best ideas, one of the best moments of thinking and clarity can come from moments like that. However, not all of them. And that is really the key. The key is this isn't really you, okay? And this isn't something special that you should protect, right? That this is, I'm just that kind of person, just that kind of a secluded introvert. If you want, you can, of course, you can do whatever you want. But from my experience, the way that my developmental journey has went, and the way that I managed to develop social skills and interacting with others and then expressing myself both, verbally and artistically and all of that, which is related, by the way. If you're a creative and you're an overthinker, you're absolutely being limited in the creative potential that you can express, trust me. So you have to realize that this isn't really you, this is just how you're conditioned, okay? And I will share some ways which I think are very simple to get out of this, and then maybe at the end of the video, a more advanced way to get out of this. So knowing that this isn't you, what does that mean? Well, it means that you're just used to doing things like that. It means that you're used to problem solving internally. So if you want to get out of that, you'll have to get into the world of either emotions or sensoric experience, being in the moment, being in the flow. All of these concepts are things that you should guide yourself towards and train yourself in. Because remember, your brain isn't something static. It doesn't remain the same way. If you train it sufficiently long enough with sufficient intensity, it will start acting in different ways. And I can absolutely confirm that the experiences and the transformations that you can get are absolutely phenomenal if you engage in those. The first thing is, if you're a typical in your head overthinker, you're probably not the sports type. I know, because at least I wasn't the sports type. I was actually very much against that. I'm like, why would I do all of this, dude? I'm just thinking, and I'm a thinking type. Why would I do this? I'm very intellectual. But what you don't realize is that this type of sensoric experience, right? Feeling your body, whatever you do, feeling the ball, snowboarding, working with weights, all that brings you into the present moment. Because if you're doing any sort of a sport and you're doing it, you're trying hard at it, you'll have to bring yourself to the present moment very intensely. And this bringing of yourself to the present moment is exactly what helps you overcome that. Now, of course, the issue is that a typical, stereotypical, at least, person of this type of profile, the in your head overthinker, they're typically not very sportsy. But see, that's the challenge. Like with many things in life, it is useful to do the thing that you're least familiar with. So if you're not familiar with those things, if you don't have a sport that you regularly, intensely do, get into it. Try different sports, get something that you like. At worst, just start going to the gym intensely, like 3-4 times a week or something, that you get really physical, right? You get that excitement from working with your body. What will happen is it will start sort of rewiring you to be more sensoric. And because you're already overly intellectual, probably, it's not an issue. You're not going to become a jog, don't worry. But you're going to get a certain kind of energy back into your body. And when you get that energy back into your body, you'll start experiencing life differently. Because life isn't lived in your head, okay? It is lived in life, okay? And your mind, your intellect is a part of life. You can use it. You have to use it, obviously. But you're not gonna have an enjoyable experience if you just live it in your head. So you start by working with your body intensely, okay? You work with your body to get back in there, right? And you do the getting back into your body as a kind of a practice, as a kind of a meditation. We'll talk about that later, by the way, one of the next points. So this one is pretty self-explanatory, but I know that there are people who don't do this because you're so smart and all of that, and you don't want to do it. Trust me, it's gonna work wonders for you. Another aspect, which is kind of related to what we talked about, but it's the aspect of socialization. Here's the thing with socialization. Socialization is something that ideally brings you to the present moment. It allows you to enjoy the, whatever dynamic is in front of you. Now, when I say socialization, I mean, in this particular case, having friends that you just have fun with. Maybe you play some board games, maybe you just laugh, maybe you talk about the recent shows or whatever, but you do that sort of a relaxed socializing aspect, okay? And you engage in it and you enjoy yourself. Why is that good? Because when you're socializing, especially if you're trying to learn to socialize better with people, you have to really focus on another person. Because a good conversation, a good socialization is when you're just sort of listening to the other person, you're paying attention to the other person. Your biggest issue in general with all of these things, you'll see that the biggest issue for an overthinker is that they're always in their head. What does that mean? They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about what are they thinking, how they look, how they feel. If you start focusing, and especially consciously, when I'm giving you these indications, I'm saying we all do them, right? We all work out a little bit. We all socialize a little bit. Do it consciously. Create situations where you invite friends. Create a little party, a board game party, whatever kind of parties you do. If you're a DJ, invite people and have a little music get together or something. Engage with that. Create opportunities to meet people. Organize that. And why? Because it'll force you to think about other people. What are other people interested in? How are other people feeling? Maybe you'll create some sort of a gathering and at one time it'll be kind of boring or something will be lacking. And then you'll think, oh wait, these people, they need something else. They need something more. This will be of great benefit for you because it will put you out of your head into the world. It'll improve your social skills. It'll improve your general sort of a social status or whatever. But most importantly, it'll teach you that there are more important things in life than just ruminating in your thoughts. The general trend of this advice being that get out into the world more, whatever you're doing. And if you're still experiencing the overthinking, do more. You're not doing enough. Do more, okay? The third one is pretty, it will be sort of a controversial, I guess, for some people, but engage in some sort of expressive art. And say, I'm not an artist. Those of you that are already artistically inclined, you might agree, but I'll have a caveat for those of you as well. For many years I used to draw, and I used to learn academic drawing, which is like, learning the perspective, the shadows, and just drawing a single cup for like 3 hours, getting the proportions perfectly and all that. And I remember doing all of that and being like, oh, this is great and all that. But it took me many years. In fact, probably I drawn all my life until I was like 20. And after that, I took like a 10-year break. And only then I got back into drawing. And then I got into like expressive abstract drawing, just as a hobby, or painting, I guess in this case. And you know what I noticed? It's the most amazingly freeing psychological experience that you can get into. It's fascinating. And you should try that out as well. And any overthinker should try that out. You know why? Because if you just start doing it, you will feel so weird and so silly about that. But that's kind of the point, right? Maybe you want to learn some instrument, maybe paint, maybe do something else. Engage with the medium that you're doing. On the one hand, you'll have to learn it, which means you'll sort of externalize yourself. On the other hand, when you start improvising with whatever that you're doing, you will understand that there's a very interesting link between being able to improvise and a loose psychology, like the ability to loosen up psychologically. And this is what you will notice. I had a lot of experience with like bohemian people, like artists and all that. And you'll notice that the most interesting artists, or at least interesting in the sense that they're very expressive in their art, they have an expressive personality. They have this sort of a loose psychology with them, which is very interesting to be around. So there's a correlation, of course, with the art and the artist that makes it. But this is a loop that you can exploit, so to speak. You can engage in random artistic practices, and it'll build up a personality which will loosen up from all of the thinking. Because in a lot of things with art, it's like you have to understand the technical aspects of it. Yes. But after a certain while, you realize that the technical aspects are almost the easier part, with limitations, of course. Getting to like master status is difficult, but it's still just a technical know-how. But creativity, inspiration, these things are a psychological phenomena. They come from the artist's psyche. And in order to create that kind of stuff, you have to be loosened up in your ideas. You have to be able to engage in fantasy. And especially if you're the sort of a overly intellectual overthinker type, try something out like that. Trust me, it'll do wonders for you if you engage and stick with it. And most importantly, it'll help your development when you like try something and you get anxious. I'm like, this isn't working. I don't like this. What is this? It's like, that's great. It's great. This is the blockage. This is why you're feeling so dry. This is why you're feeling so stuck in life, okay? When socializing, when doing other things, you feel like you're not doing enough or whatever. This is the thing, okay? All of these things are connected because whatever you do in life is an expression of your psyche. Why did I mention things that are 3 external things? And I'll get into the internal dynamics right now, which are more sophisticated in a way, but these 3 are very approachable and people don't use them enough. Amass a huge amount of hobbies that are very expressive, that force you to engage with life, touch things, okay? Get into your body, get into your sensoric senses, learn to DJ, whatever, listen to music. All of these things will make you come into life more. And most importantly, that coming into life will become quite exciting because you create something, whether it's your body, whether it's a painting, whatever, right? And music, it's a creative expression which will feed back in a loop into your psyche, allowing you to be more loose. Now, since we talked about the most obvious ones, and these are critical, I attribute a lot of the worth and the transformation that I had or just simply developing the right habits, the right hobbies that allowed me to free myself up more. But when I do, by the way, hobbies, I do them intensely, okay? When I started painting, I painted like 30 or 50 paintings in a year or two, okay? When I started DJing, I would DJ every week and practice every week, and then started playing at bars and clubs and all that, just as a hobby, okay? I started working out, I'm now working out 4 times a week and all that. Like that's the kind of a intensity that I'm talking about. And it doesn't have to be like that for you. But what I'm saying is that when you get into that, it gets so interesting that you will want to do that. That's why it's fucking interesting. And it'll start feeding back into you. You'll start feeling very good about that. So these are all externals. These are all relatively simple externalities that you can do. Now, I'm going to talk about something that is deeper. The way that your mind works, you have to understand. Now we're getting into advanced stuff, okay? What you consider yourself, probably, unless you have some experience in sort of a self-inquiry and personal growth and just general psychological development, it's not really you. In other words, you're thinking that you're overthinking, and you're thinking that you are overthinking. That's actually not true. It's not you that is overthinking. What you are is the presence behind the overthinking. The overthinking are just random thoughts and ideas being looped as habits. They're not you. You're basically the sun behind the clouds, but the clouds are there, and the clouds are kind of a separate thing. They're not even you. You could even speculate if they even belong to you. That's another whole discussion. But they're not you. You're just kind of infested with thoughts, let's put it that way. You just have a lot of these things, a lot of these loops running you in you. Now, it gets pretty hard to live life when you start thinking that these things are exactly you. But it also gets way easier once you start recognizing the difference between your thoughts and the real you. Now, the way that this thing is attained is through a sort of a relentless dedication to meditative or other sort of consciousness-inducing practices. All the things that I mentioned before are the casual, everyday things that can help you induce more consciousness and more liveliness, more awareness into your life. And they totally work. However, if you want to go deeper, you will have to get in and especially resolve that sort of an issue of overthinking as fast and as efficiently as possible and progress as much as you can. You will have to get in some sort of a self-regulatory, consciousness awareness inducing practice. There really is no other way around this. Why? Because the defining feature of humanity, and especially of human beings that are not awake, aware, or have less awareness like that, is that we are like automatons. We are stuck repeating the same things again and again. Think about the things that you're typically thinking throughout the day, and remember yesterday. Now remember the week before. Remember a year before. If you're very attentive and the more conscious you become, you'll realize that some things you're just thinking for 20 years, nonstop, on a loop, again and again, again and again. The expression of the certain thoughts might change. You know, you might be worried about the job now, but guess what? 20 years ago, you were worried about the schoolwork, and the kind of feeling and the structure of the thought was kind of the same. It's just that the expression was aimed at school. Now it's aimed at your job or something. It's quite shocking to realize this, because you realize that, wait a second, so I'm just repeating the same thing again and again, some stupid thought again and again and again. It's like, yes, kinda. The reason why you do these practices, meditative practices, awareness-inducing practices, is because it forces you to sit down and observe that thing. The theory, and I guess the practice of those thoughts, is that the reason why you repeat them is because you're not fully aware that you're repeating them. Once you start engaging in some practice like that, you will start noticing that you're being run by these random thought forms. And you'll start going, isn't it weird? Wait, why am I saying that? And you'll you'll catch yourself saying some weirdest things, some really toxic things against yourself, some really boring things, some annoying things, some very limiting things, okay? And you'll notice that, isn't it weird that I'm repeating that? You'll start wondering that. And when you start wondering that, that's when you start getting the power to start sort of discarding them. Because you're no longer like asleep, okay? You're no longer automatically driven by them. And part of that deal is getting into life, getting into the sensoric experience, enjoying yourself, talking with others, all of that. That's an indirect way, you could say, of doing that. The direct way is going into yourself in a meditative or some sort of a yogic or breathwork sense, and noticing those things and allowing yourself to experience those things, allowing yourself to let go of those things. This is the most powerful way to do it, frankly, but it's also one that in a way is the most confrontational, because typically the things that we're constantly thinking about are usually not that pleasant, they're repetitive, they're stressful, and the typical response is to run away from that instead of engaging that. But the sort of a paradox is that if you want to really remove some of those thoughts, you have to completely face them consciously, sort of suffer through the fact of facing them, and only then you'll be able to get out of that situation, release that thought. I have to say for some finishing remarks that the intensity, the capacity for you to be an overthinker, right? To really focus on these things, it just means that you have a powerful intellect, probably a very focused mind, and you can use that mind for many great things. Actually, it is kind of a superpower if you develop it properly, and life can become way more fun and easy and relaxed and engaging, right? If you do that. But it will take some time, and it'll take a dedicated effort to develop that, but it's absolutely possible, and it's definitely possible for everyone. So it's not something that you need to be stuck on, and you don't need to make it a personality, right, as something that you are and you will always be. It is something that you can grow out of or develop out of, because it is a limiting thing. From my experience, when I was like that, life was way more limiting. I felt quite invisible, quite limited. I remember feeling that I can't really enjoy life, like just even the regular things. And I felt, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just enjoy, the things that the beautiful everyday things that are happening with me? And of course, when challenges arose, I was way less capable of facing those challenges. And all the things that I applied benefited greatly into improving that. So this is what I hope for you as well. Engage in life. It's not a diagnosis or something, and you're not just like that. Just start changing things around, and you'll see you'll turn everything around, and it will be beautiful.